My mother-in-law secretly obtains our address and shows up unannounced, demanding that we give her time with our kids, or else she would call the police and get our kids taken away. And despite the fact that we went no contact with this woman several years ago, and that we live in a different country and never gave her our address, we are now incredibly shaken that this woman not only found us, but is also making these outlandish demands. Here's what happened. Let me start off by saying that I'm a very happy 29-year-old female living with my husband Alex, who's 31, as well as our 4 kids ages 7 all the way down to 1 year old. My husband and I had pretty bad childhoods, but I have great contact with my parents, and when we still live fairly near them, they would come and help out by cleaning the entire apartment, and overall they were amazing. Meanwhile, his family is absolutely insane. His father's in jail and his mom is absolutely crazy. There's been so much insane drama with her that a few years ago when we moved back to the United Kingdom from a different country, we went completely no contact with her. Alex also has a sister and a brother, and while we don't talk with a brother, we are really close to his sister. She lives in London and is also no contact with my mother-in-law. She recently graduated from university and she loves our kids, so we think that's great. The last time we heard from my mother-in-law was 2 years ago, which was right when we moved, but since then, everything has been really calm. Well, fast forward to 3 weeks ago, and I was recently looking through old photos, and I realized that Alex and I hadn't gone on a proper date in ages. Once every 2 months, we used to take a weekend trip to the beach or the mountains or the city, all before we had kids. And even after our first date, we stuck to the tradition and we took the baby with us. But after our second, we just didn't have the time anymore. We were busy, plus we live by the beach, so if we want a nice outing, we just take a 1-minute stroll there and then we call it a day. But looking back at those photos really just brought back this nostalgia of a time spent just with the 2 of us. And after talking with Alex, we decided it would be nice to take maybe a weekend trip down to France the following week. Now, I don't work and Alex has a flexible schedule, and while we did have to move a few things around, overall it wasn't that hard. His sister immediately agreed to come and look after our children, and the kids are excited to see their aunt. I was a bit sad to leave the babies, but knew that it would be good for our relationship to have some time just for ourselves. So we were all ready for our trip. It was Wednesday and we were all set to go by Friday evening. Alex was at work and I was home alone with the children when I heard the doorbell go off. I go and open the door, and there, standing with a smug grin on her face, is my mother-in-law. And I was shocked to say the least, because how on earth did she find out our address? She doesn't even live in the same country as us, and yet here she was standing at my doorstep. She then pointed at my son, who I was holding, and said, "Oh, is that the newest baby? I've never even met him." She then practically pushed herself in and casually sat down in the living room, while I tried to figure out what on earth I was gonna do. When I asked her why she was here, she tried to avoid the topic, and instead wanted to see the other kids and bond with them until Alex came home, but I would not let her. It might sound rude of me, but as I said, she's done some incredibly toxic things in the past before and after I gave birth, so this was to protect our family. Finally, she dropped the sweet grandma mask and revealed the true reason that she was here, to persuade me into letting her spend the weekend with her grandkids. She somehow found out that we were going to France and leaving the kids with my sister-in-law, and she just wasn't having that. She began saying that my sister-in-law was irresponsible and young. She wouldn't manage taking care of 4 young children for 2 whole nights. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law explained she was experienced after raising 3 children, so she would have no problem. Plus, according to her, she was already here, so she could do it. Now, when I said no, she shifted her personality and became serious, which meant yelling at me and telling me she had the right to see her grandbabies, and that she would call the police and demand grandparental rights. She claimed I was being awful and neglectful for planning to leave my children alone for a whole weekend, and that she'll call CPS and really try to get us in trouble. Now, I was getting tired and I asked her to leave, but she said she won't and literally sat down on the couch refusing to move. When I called Alex to come home, he was not pleased and got into a heated argument with his mother, which resulted in her finally leaving. However, this whole thing is nuts because we cannot figure out how she found out our address or even our weekend plans. And my sister-in-law swears that she didn't tell any relatives and only told her colleagues and roommates about what was going on. Now, as for my mother-in-law, she didn't fully leave. I have no idea where she's staying at the moment, but we see her driving a rental car outside of our house constantly, as if she's some kind of surveillance officer. It's so ridiculous but scary at the same time, because our 2 older kids are constantly playing outside in the garden without supervision, and while we obviously have a fence and security cameras, it's still a scary thought that she might try to snatch one of them up, even though Alex assures me that she wouldn't go that far. We ultimately permanently canceled our trip due to fear that she would try to pull something while we were gone, and we're still trying to figure out how she found us, and we're just waiting for her to do something that would let us get a restraining order against her. She is a scary woman for sure, and it seriously left us in a really awful spot. This is really scary because seriously, this lady is not right in the head. First of all, she basically broke into your house, and she said, "Oh, I'm not leaving until I can see the kids and spend time with them," while also saying that if she didn't get her way, she was going to call the police and make up all these lies. Which, by the way, I'm pretty sure that's the only reason she's outside of your house constantly in that rental car. She's probably trying to document some kind of situation just so she can try and have it in her back pocket as some kind of like ultimatum, even though that would never work and what she's trying to do is insane. Like, she's clearly not right in the head, and it's obvious that she has ill intentions towards you and your family, because for her to show up to your house unannounced as well as having your address in the first place, like, that is really intrusive and really scary. And I really think if I was in your shoes, I would go to the police. I would tell them exactly what's going on, and if they really do have cameras, then I would be like, look, this is her basically forcing her way into my house, because this entire scenario is really sketchy, and if I was in your shoes, I would take this very seriously. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for allegedly ruining my friend's vacation after they sent me a text message saying that I ruined everything based on the way I was acting? Because right now I'm completely floored and blown away, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 38-year-old female, and I just got back from vacation with my two lifelong friends. For the sake of the story, we'll call them Kate and Mary. I've known them since university, and we've always been close. The three of us have been planning this Bali trip for a few months, along with our husbands and their kids. They both have children under 5, while my husband and I are child-free. For the sake of the story, we'll call my husband Jake. We agreed to split the cost of a 4-bedroom villa 3 ways, and everything seemed fine at first. Jake and I arrived in Bali earlier than the rest of the group because we had different flights. Once we got to the villa, we waited to choose rooms with our friends and didn't mind when they both chose the ones with in-suites. We had a great time during the trip. Jake and I did some couples activities like hiking or getting a massage or having dinner, but we also spent time with Kate and Mary and their families whenever it worked for everybody else. To be nice, I even surprised them with massages to give them a break. The only thing that made me uncomfortable was that whenever I ordered a drink, which was a cocktail before dinner or a glass of wine with meals, I'd get comments like, "Oh, you're drinking again?" Now, for context, I'm a social drinker, and I don't drink that often, but we were on vacation, and I didn't think it was a big deal, especially since our husbands were drinking too. Well, I just ignored the comments so I could enjoy the trip. On the last night, Jake and I made plans with the guys to go out, and Kate and Mary said they were staying in to pack. Jake convinced me to join him, and since it was the last night of our vacation, I didn't want to stay in either. We went out and we honestly had a great time. We got back home at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and I passed out straight afterwards. The next morning was a bit chaotic with everyone packing and checking out, but we all made it back home without issue. We had booked business class seats back, so we were separated during the flight and said quick goodbyes at the airport. Well, a week after returning home, I got a long text message from Kate saying that both she and Mary wanted to reduce contact with me because apparently I had ruined their vacation. They mentioned several things like me drinking every night and that I wasn't acting like a girl's girl and that I booked different flights and I didn't hang out with them enough and that I was selfish for not helping them with their kids. She even said that I was just focusing on partying and not acting my age, and this message really hurt me. Well, I cried after reading it, and honestly, I don't know what to think yet. I thought I was just enjoying my vacation, but clearly they had a very different view. I haven't responded yet, and my husband has been asking me what's bothering me, but I don't know what to say. So am I the jerk for how I acted on the trip? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster has an update that they wanted to share. Here's what they had to say. Okay, first of all, I want to thank everybody for their kind words and their support. Reading through the responses and seeing how many of you are upset on my behalf has made me reflect on how I initially planned to handle things. I was going to apologize, thinking it might be the easiest way to keep the peace, but now I realize that might not be the right approach after all. I've also showed my husband Jake this post and the text message, and he told me to thank you for looking out for me, and he's actually pretty angry on my behalf about the text message too. I also showed him some of the comments that gave me insight on how my friends may have been feeling, which has given both of us a lot to think about. He also asked me what I wanted to do next, and if I wanted him to respond to my friends for me. While I appreciated the offer, I told him I'm still thinking it over. He reassured me that he's here for me no matter what, and if I decided I want him to step in, then he would be ready to say something on my behalf. For now, I'm going to sleep on it and take some time before I respond, or even if I just don't respond to the text message. But again, I want to thank everybody for helping me see things a bit more clearly, because right now I feel less alone in all of this craziness. Okay, first of all, no, you're absolutely not the jerk. And I definitely echo pretty much all the comments that are in this post, where people basically say, yeah, you did nothing wrong. For starters, you were on vacation. Of course you're gonna have fun and spend time with your husband. For them to be like, oh, you were drinking every night and you didn't spend any time with us. Like, seriously, are you also married to them? Like, what is this all about? Are you kidding me right now? They're trying to make this sound like you were just drunk out of your mind and you were stumbling all over yourself and you were not acting your age, but it's like, are you kidding me? I'm in Bali on vacation with people I thought were my friends. If anything, that is definitely the place to let your hair down and just have some fun. Not to mention harmless fun on top of that. I find it also really funny that they're like, you didn't even help with any of our kids. It's like, okay, what are we talking about here? Did you really expect the original poster and their husband to watch your kids while you guys went out and did whatever you want? Their choice to be child-free doesn't mean that they should be saddled with your kids. If you didn't want your kids with you on this trip, then guess what? You should have left them with a babysitter or a family member or somebody else. Like, how is this the original poster's problem at all? Just because Kate and Mary didn't get the most out of their trip like they were wanting to, doesn't mean that the original poster's at fault. It just means that Kate and Mary are jealous of Jake in the original poster. Like, come on, that's all that's going on here. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. And honestly, if Kate and Mary want to pull away from you for not being more involved in their stupid trip, then honestly, by all means. Because if I was in your shoes, that is not the kind of people I want to be friends with. Especially if they're going to try and blame me for their vacation. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for locking my husband out of the house? All because he wouldn't stop bringing stray animals into our home. Here's what happened. Okay, so my husband has a huge soft spot for animals. Like, it's a nice trait and all, but it's getting out of control. Every time he sees a stray dog or cat, or even a raccoon, he brings it home, as he would say, just for the night to make sure it's okay. We've been married for 5 years, and in that time, I've come home to at least 20 different animals in our house. Some were covered in fleas, some chewed up our furniture, and one time, he even brought home a possum that hissed at me when I went into the kitchen. It is beyond stressful, especially since we already have 3 pets of our own. I've told him countless times to stop bringing strays home, but he just brushes it off, saying, well, I can't just leave them on the street. Well, last night was the final straw. He comes home at midnight with a stray goat that he found wandering near a park. Yes, a goat. And he thought it would be fine to just let it stay in our living room overnight. Well, I lost it. I told him he's being ridiculous and that he can't keep doing this, but he still wouldn't listen. So I did something drastic. While he was out in the backyard trying to build some makeshift pen for the goat, I locked the doors and I told him he could sleep outside if he was so attached. Well, he ended up sleeping in the car because it was cold, and now he is furious with me, saying I overreacted and that it's cruel to lock your own husband out. Well, I told him I'm done living in an animal shelter and that it's either the strays or me. Well, he says I'm heartless and that I should be more compassionate, but I feel like I've put up with enough. So am I the jerk for locking him out because he wouldn't stop bringing home random animals? What should I do? Okay, for starters, I do think you're the jerk for locking your husband out, because this is like a massive overreaction. Seriously, it's cold out and you made him sleep in the car. I get that you don't like these animals in your house, but this is like over the line in my opinion. Like, this absolutely can be the last straw and you can be like, okay, this is not gonna happen any longer. We gotta figure something out. But to lock him out of the house like that, I really do think that's over the line and that should not have happened. But also on that same note, this is not excusing your husband's behavior. Like, this guy's bringing home random animals that you're like, okay, I don't want this in the house. Because trust me, I'm right there with you. If I saw a possum in my kitchen, or even like a stray dog or cat with fleas, or even a raccoon, like, I would be losing my cool as well. So hopefully there's some kind of solution here where your husband can still rescue these animals, but keep them out of your house in the process, because that is clearly a combination that is not working for the both of you. Am I the jerk for telling my little sister that she is insane for taking the door off of her daughter's bedroom as some kind of punishment, all because she didn't want to go to Girl Scouts? Here's what happened. So I recently told my sister that she was turning into our mentally unstable mother and was ruining her relationship with her daughter, who we will call Sarah, which is something our mother did with us. For context, Sarah is a really good girl. She's homeschooled, very sheltered, and heavily involved in Girl Scouts. My sister controls literally every aspect of her life. Sarah has been apparently acting out lately, such as saying no to chores and refusing to cooperate, which is something that I think is pretty normal for this age. And for reference, I have 4 kids, and 3 of them have gone through puberty. It's obvious to me that Sarah is acting out as a way to establish some independence and doesn't have the tools to be able to express this need to my sister. Defiance is obviously something that needs to be addressed, but I think my sister would have a much better outcome with a compassionate conversation with Sarah. I know it's not my place, but I believe with my whole heart that it's time for her to let Sarah know that she is proud of her and trusts her to do the best in making good choices and is going to be giving her more freedoms to positively reinforce her good choices, not the opposite. Also, 2 days after this whole ordeal, Sarah started her first period, so I know this all is likely a hormonal surge and should have been met with compassion and not anger and punishment. Anyways, Sarah didn't want to go to Girl Scouts. She had to compete against other girls for a badge and was too embarrassed at the thought of losing, so she flat out refused to go. Well, when Sarah said this, my sister was so upset with her. She didn't ask her why she didn't want to go, but instead she just became really heated and things somehow escalated to the point where my sister took away all of Sarah's privileges, namely her electronics, her phone, even any books, and told her that she was only allowed to leave her bedroom to go to the bathroom. The next day, when my sister was bringing Sarah her lunch, she caught her reading and my sister just lost her mind. She threw Sarah's lunch on her bed and said to her, "The next step is calling the police, and trust me, your treatment here is far better than the treatment you'll receive in jail." And Sarah responded in tears by saying, "Okay, call them." So my sister walked away pretending to call the police. And when she came back, she removed Sarah's door from her bedroom and said that the police told her to do that first and that the next step was going to be jail. And I honestly feel the way she's treating Sarah is awful. My sister and I have always been very close and promised to let each other know if we were turning into our mom. Well, I did that, and now she's not talking to me. So am I the jerk here? Should I just tell her to parent the way that she sees fit, even if she's going to destroy her relationship with her kids and with me? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk for saying something, because seriously, the way your sister's acting is insane. She's treating her daughter as if she did some horrible crime, but literally she's just growing up and doesn't want to go to Girl Scouts. So for her to be like, "Oh, you're gonna go to jail," and then take the door off its hinges and be like, "Oh, the cops wanted me to do that." Like seriously, this is an overreaction to like the highest degree. So no, you're definitely not the jerk for telling her the truth, because seriously, the way she's acting is not okay, and she is only ruining her relationship with her family in the process. Am I the jerk for refusing to throw away a bunch of my clothing simply because my partner thinks that I have too many? Because right now I'm very frustrated, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my partner and I moved into a new house recently. He is paying for the home as well as the vast majority of our expenses. For reference, he is well off, and my net worth is about 3% of his for context. In our home, we have a walk-in closet. Currently, I use about 60% of the closet, and he uses 20%, and the 20% that's unused is available for him to use. In addition to the closet space in our bedroom, we currently have 2 guest bedrooms with large closets as well. Prior to purchasing our new home, we lived separately, and when moving here, I was very deliberate about which of my clothes I was bringing along, and I used it as an opportunity to get rid of a ton of items of clothing that I literally no longer want. Well, my partner has said to me, "Hey, I want us to go through your clothes and decide which ones we're keeping and which ones you don't wear or use, and we should honestly just get rid of it." And I responded by saying, "Okay, we can, but I already did that, and I only brought over the clothes I know I want to keep, so I don't think this is necessary and it won't lead to me getting rid of them." He responded that he still wanted to go through them, stating that it's fine if we don't end up getting rid of anything, but also that he doesn't want to bring junk into our new home, while also saying that I have way too many clothes. He also offered that we could go through his things and do the same thing, but I said that I don't have any problem with how many clothes he has, and I'm not concerned about what he keeps or doesn't keep. To me, this whole thing is unnecessary, and I don't even see why it needs to be an issue. We have the space, I already did what he is asking me to do on my own, and also I'm having a hard time seeing why this even matters or is an issue. And this isn't the first time this has come up. He's brought it up multiple times, leading to a similar conversation, with last night's being especially vitriolic. I got upset about it while we were discussing it last night, and I said to him, "Why can't I bring what I want into our new home?" And he just said to me, "Fine, I don't care, bring anything. And why don't you pay for everything too?" And then he left because he needed a break. So seriously, am I the one being unreasonable here? What should I do? No, you're not being unreasonable at all. You already did what the original poster wants to do, so there's literally no point in doing it again. It also sounds like you guys have plenty of closet space like around the house. So if this really is like a space question, then honestly it seems like he's making a mountain out of molehills. This is also such a weird thing to be controlling over. Like, why is he so upset about this this specific thing. It doesn't make sense, and it's just kind of weird in my opinion. I don't know, it's like a borderline red flag if you ask me. Like, is he controlling in other areas of your life? Like, I don't know, maybe I'm looking too much into it, but this just seems a little sketchy in my opinion. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. There's nothing wrong with the clothing that you have, and I really think this is just something that your partner is just gonna have to get over. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.